Good evening. I'm Michelle Andal, and I'm the President and CEO of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce and Community. On behalf of Bellevue University and the Chamber, it's my honor to welcome all of you here tonight for the 2022 Bellevue Mayoral Candidate Debate. I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Mary Hawkins and the entire team at Bellevue University that worked with the Chamber to make this happen. We're so grateful, we are truly grateful for the collaboration and partnership we have, Dr. Hawkins, with all of you. Can all of you please join me in a round of applause of thank you for Bellevue University. In just a few moments, we'll begin the debate. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Rick Galusha of Bellevue University, who will be our moderator for the evening. Since 2009, Dr. Galusha has served as a member of the Bellevue University faculty. He is currently an associate professor and program director of the university's College of Arts and Sciences, where he teaches political science and leads the university's Kirkpatrick Signature Series. The series, which I've actually been through, is required for all undergraduate students and highlights the importance of active citizenship in a rapidly changing world, in which popular government, Western traditions, and American values are sometimes severely tested. In addition to his teaching at Bellevue University, Dr. Galusha is the co-founder of the Omaha Free Speech Society, and since 1991, he's been the host of the award-winning, internationally recognized radio program, Pacific Street Blues. He's written and been featured in media ranging from the LA Times to Billboard magazine to the Counterintelligence Journal. Dr. Galusha also regularly provides perspective on a variety of issues in the community as a community columnist for the Omaha World Herald. Please welcome Dr. Galusha. Thank you for doing this, Dr. Galusha. And now I'd like to welcome the candidates to the stage. Will Mayor Rusty Hike and Councilman Thomas Burns please come up to the stage? I'm now going to hand the event over to Dr. Galusha. He will tell you about the candidates and the rules of engagement for tonight's debate. And gentlemen, you're welcome to be seated.
Good evening and welcome to the 2022 Bellevue Mayoral Debate. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce. Accordingly, the Bellevue Chamber is pleased to host tonight's forum in order to allow the Chamber's members as well as citizens to get to know their candidates. Mayor Hike is a fourth-generation resident of Bellevue and has a 40-year real estate broker specializing in the Bellevue area. Mayor Hike has served on the Sarpy County Board, Bellevue Planning Commission, numerous real estate boards, and has been an Offutt Advisory Council for 28 years, a member of that board. His wife, Joanna, has taught in the Bellevue Public Schools for 27 years, and their daughter and two sons have all graduated from the Bellevue Public School system. Bellevue City Councilman Thomas Burns has served on the council since 2016. He has served on the city's budget task force and the special executive board put together for moving the city's library forward. Currently, he sits on NCAP's Capital Campaign Committee, supporting the expansion of their food pantry, and serves on the Parks Steering Committee, helping to assemble the new Parks Master Plan. Thomas is a graduate of Bellevue East, Metro Community College, and the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Aside from his position on the Bellevue City Council, Thomas is an assistant probation officer in Nebraska's 2nd Probation District. Members of the audience are reminded that polite civility is expected. Let's take a moment now and show our appreciation for those who willingly step forward and voluntarily take on the duties of civic engagement and leadership by putting themselves and their families forward by running for public office. These are the rules of the debate, and we've discussed them already. A candidate will be asked a question. They have up to 2 minutes to respond. I will signal time's up, in which case the speaker will quickly wind up their comments. The other candidate will then have 2 minutes to respond. The initial candidate may opt for a 30-second reply. Questions asked tonight have been supplied by Bellevue residents, business operators, including members of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce, the mayoral candidates, and myself. Earlier, we flipped a coin to determine who would go first. Councilman Burns will go first. So the first question is for you. In speaking with a significant employer in Bellevue, they expressed concern about the affordability of housing. According to the 2020 census, Bellevue grew by 28% between 2010 and 2020. This employer suggests that the lack of starter homes in middle-class housing forces employees to live outside of Bellevue, thus depriving shops and services, possible customers, and the city sales taxes. What is the current state of the issue, and how do you see this issue evolving in the future?
So first, I really want to thank Mary Hawkins, president of Bellevue University, and Michelle Andal, president of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this event. I also want to thank you, Dr. Galusha, for moderating, and I also want to thank Mayor Hike for agreeing to participate. In terms of affordable housing, it's really the wrong thing to call it. Really, it's housing affordability. So when we look at the median average income in the city of Bellevue, I think that's 62 to 64,000. The average median income is 62 to 64,000. I know that we have a lot of deficiency, so I know that the city is working based on the state mandate to put together a plan. But we need to take a bigger step, and when we put together a plan, we need to make sure that we are following it and implementing it, because it is a huge need, so that we can service people like police officers, teachers. So yes.
Thank you. I was all prepared for my opening statement, but we'll go back to that at the close maybe. I don't know. Thank you, Bellevue University. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce. And thank you all for coming out. I've been to a lot of these over the years, and this is by far the best turnout I've ever seen. So thank you very much for participating. Housing affordability, you know, that's right up my alley. I've been in the business 40 years. We are working on that. Habitat for Humanity is building a complex right behind Beardmore Chevrolet in Bellevue. They partnered with Beardmore to help some of their employees as well. Bellevue has Sarpy County's affordable housing. So, you know, if you can't find it in Bellevue, you're not going to find it in Sarpy County. We have a lot of properties that are affordable, but everything is getting a little bit out of hand. Interest rates are going to make that even worse, so it's becoming even harder. We have a lot of apartment structures going up. I know a lot of people complain about the apartment structures, but the millennials want those structures. They want apartment living. So to say affordable housing, we have Sarpy County's market, and I think we're doing a pretty good job maintaining it. I would bring up our Old Town development. We have 53 apartments down there. It was recently brought up in front of the council that we need to make that density a little more heavy. And what that does, the more density you can put into a lot, it allows those developers to build them at a lower price. That makes your housing affordable. I would note that my opponent did vote against raising that density. It was a lone vote against that this last meeting. So if you want affordable housing, those are the things you got to think about, is all the zoning that goes into place to make housing affordable. But big issue, and we are on top of it. Thanks.
Did you want to retort?
Yeah.
Would you like a retort?
So, no, and I appreciate Mayor Hike's comments. I think in terms of housing affordability, I mean, we'll just talk about my personal experience, right? If we're talking about apartment complexes, like, you know, I'm either paying on the low end, and, you know, I might not be in the best of conditions, but at the same time, I get priced out of, you know, being in what we call luxury apartments, but also, you know, it's difficult to get into the housing market, and that's what we really should be focusing on, and getting more people into the housing market and make things affordable for people.
Thank you. Mayor Hike, you have the second question. Recently, Bellevue opened Looking Glass Heights Splash Park and the Stonecraft Park, revitalized the library, improved parks in the cemetery. There's also a proposed sports complex in development. These are all wonderful amenities. Our neighbor to the north has created neighborhood hubs, including Midtown, Blackstone, Benson, and Nodo. Should Bellevue consider amenities centers similar to those such as we see at the Exarban area, including the rail yard, a concert space, outdoor movies, and bike trails?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're doing in that Old Town District. Bellevue is made of about 5 different hubs around town. You've got areas off 370, areas off Cornhusker, the Old Town area. We are trying to rebrand that identity in Old Town Bellevue and bring people back to Bellevue. So when you're out in West Omaha and you say, let's go to Bellevue, where is Bellevue? We want people to say, let's go to Bellevue, and that's that Old Town District where we have restaurants, where we have places for the kids to go, where we have ice cream places, candy makeries, breweries, whatever you envision in those places like Exarban. So great question, and that is exactly what we're doing in the Old Town area, and hopefully Fort Crook Road, we're working hard on that. There's big plans for that with mass transit and everything coming down the road. Don't have a lot of time to talk about that tonight, but we see that same thing happening right off the mass transit hub along Fort Crook Road as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So I think those are really important things. You know, on my campaign, I've really focused on improving a lot of our amenities. So, you know, we have the Parks Master Plan in place, you know, and something that might be different between, you know, a Hike administration and a Burns administration is that I want to make a focus on our neighborhood parks and making, you know, the parks that our families play in and utilize and make memories a lot better, because that improves the quality of life. As where a Hike administration might start looking at getting rid of some of our parks. And I think we've got to be really careful when we start looking at some of these grandiose plans that get promised, but there's never really any follow through. American Heroes Park, you know, is an example of that. I mean, if you look at our CIP, let me back up, you know, we had HDR come in, create this $31 million plan, you know, but there's little to nothing on our CIP to actually do those improvements. You know, and as far as creating community hubs, it's good to do that, but let's just take Old Town Bellevue, for example. You know, with the development that has just been announced, I mean, it's the 3rd announcement that we've had, and beyond that, they are trying to change the plan if we're talking about terms of density, and so when we're promising commercial and, you know, ice cream shops and all these things, we got to be really careful, because I'm not sure that there's a lot of follow through on that, or that it's going to come to fruition. And I think we also need to focus on other things like making major infrastructure improvements. You know, it's speculated that on Mission Avenue, a lot of our underground infrastructure is shot, and we need to make sure that those things are in place so that developers can come in and things are ready for them to build. So.
Just for clarity, what is a CIP?
Oh, capital improvement projects. So, yeah, I apologize about that. Thank you, Dr. Galusha.
Would you like a reply?
Yeah, the parks, I think we've done a fabulous job over the last 4 years on parks. You see the Stonecraft Park, amazing park. We've put a lot of new slides, new swings. We're upgrading all those. You got a new gazebo in Washington Park. So I think we've been doing a fantastic job of keeping those parks up. And American Heroes Park is going to be awesome. And the capital improvement plan, we have, I think it's $3 or $4 million in there next year. So you don't see the whole $31 million in the yearly plan, but we'll try to get the amphitheater in, and that's already becoming a destination. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Burns, you were the sole vote against the 2022-23 budget. The person who submitted this question suggests that any cuts in the budget would come from public safety accounts, including the fire and the police departments. Is that an accurate assessment, and can you explain your thoughts when you cast your vote against this budget?
Yeah, so, Part of that is the economy's been hard on everybody. So I think that when we're looking at taking advantage of property values going up, to Mr. and Mrs. Smith sitting at the table, or how many times that I've gone door to door and I've had someone say I'm on a fixed income, you guys keep raising our property taxes, you're going to tax me out of my home. Whether it's $10 a month, $50 a month, it makes a difference, and it's an impact. The other thing is they cut a lot out of public works, and I just don't want to get this confused, but when we're talking about improving our infrastructure, we need to make sure that citizens can get from point A to point B, and so can our first responders. So we can't forget that public works is public safety in terms of getting around. And if we let that go to waste, it doesn't matter how many police officers you throw at something. If they can't get there safely and in a timely manner, it makes no difference.
Yeah, the budget, I think he was, Councilman Burns was the lone vote against the budget. The thing that really raised the budget was public safety, mostly police, and also fire. So in my opinion, it is kind of unfunding public safety. We had, 2 years ago, we had 82 officers on the police department. We had the approval to hire 105 officers. So really that big increase was noticeable because we were not paying for those fire or the policemen the last 2 years because we could not hire policemen. We have a police chief that we hired, a great hire for the city of Bellevue. He's done an absolutely fantastic job of filling the 105, and we're moving to 111 now as well. So what you see in the police increase is something we should have been paying all along. The fire, we are fully staffed, we're fully equipped. Police, fully staffed, fully equipped, and diversified, I might add. So Bellevue's been doing a fantastic job. We are the lowest per capita expense city in the state. Bellevue spends $1,630 per person to run their city. Papillion, in comparison, is twice that, $3,200. Bellevue is by far the lowest. I think Omaha's $2,300. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in Bellevue. Your administration, council is watching those dollars, and I think they're doing a fantastic job managing those. And if you think about it, in Bellevue, $200,000 house, your portion of taxes is $100 a month that goes to the city. That $100 a month gets you public fire, public safety, police, safe roads, parks, pools, and keeping everything up to date. So a lot of people spend more than $100 a month on their cell phone service. So thank you.
Did you want to respond?
Yeah, and I think, look, I support public safety, police and fire. I can remember, at one point being on the council before Mayor Hike was there, where I was the only council that voted yes on their contract. But beyond that, we also just did aggressive annexation. So it kind of puts us in a point, and I've specifically asked our chief if that is a result of annexation, and he has said yes. And so when we're looking at that, we're looking at the amount of road mileage that we are responsible for. Again, it just makes no difference. Oh, thank you.
You can finish your thought.
Oh, no, it just, makes no difference how many police officers you throw at something, and we should really be looking at how we're utilizing our resources and our manpower.
Thank you. Mayor Hike, what is your vision for Bellevue, and what do you propose would be the measures and the outcomes of its success? How would citizens know or see progress and this success? As a subset of that question is, what are the major challenges or obstacles in achieving your vision, and how would you overcome them?
So I think we've got a really good start on that process. My vision for Bellevue is to set a path so we are organized for proper growth, making sure our zonings are right, our access is right, our infrastructure is right, and we're building what we need to build on certain locations. Bellevue is landlocked by the rivers, by Papillion, by Omaha. We've got a 4,000 acre military installation that sits right in the middle of the city that we don't collect tax on. We've got a floodplain you can't build on. We have to be very protective of our land that we have left. We're going to be growing up. That's the only place we're going to be able to grow someday. We're going to use it all up. So it's very important that we put the right planning in place and we get the industry down south on the ground down there so we can start getting our tax base built up, and that lowers your mill levy on your houses. So I want to see us paying less taxes on our houses. I am the conservative up here on the stage, and that is my whole goal, is to get our mill levy down in the end as an end result, and quality of life, of course. Thank you.
So, with the Burns administration, you'd have professional city management. That'd be the first and foremost, and you can track that that progress. The second thing is we would move forward towards a modern library that served all Bellevue residents and something that we could be proud of. The other thing is making improvements to our amenities. So we do have a Parks Master Plan going on, but just kind of like what happened with our 2007 Parks Master Plan, it was created and you gave very little guidance to some of our city leaders. And so it's just to make sure that we're following those recommendations that it comes with and making those improvements. And then if we're talking about economic development, we do need to start taking a holistic approach. So we need to look at all of our city. And then, as far as little pockets, usually you'll have a firm come in, actually develop a plan, assess all the needs that we do need. So as far as underground infrastructure, above infrastructure, and really create a layout for the whole area. And then, with community buy-in and engagement, that's how people are a part of the process. And then we start following that process. That's also what signals to developers that we're serious. And it's also a way for people to follow what we're doing step by step.
Yeah, I think that's, is this my 30 second? Yes, sir. I think it's hard talking 30 seconds. I already used half of it too. We've got a lot going on. So once we get that development, those taxes coming down, everything else falls into place. So you've got money to spend on your public quality, and we're in the right direction. And hopefully I'll be able to go over some of those projects here in a little bit.
Thank you. So this next question, I'll ask each of you a different variation of this next question. As a state, Nebraska is concerned with the so-called brain drain when young people graduate from high school or college and then leave the state. Councilman Burns, some suggest that one way to stem this flow of young talent out of the state is to invest in amenities that appeal to younger citizens. Should Bellevue make a similar effort to keep these young people, and what would you specifically do to keep young people in the area?
Some of this is just from personal experience, but when we are looking at, locating to a city, we want to try and figure out what our quality of life is going to be. And I think that it's important as local government to improve the quality of life of citizens. So when we're talking about walkability, getting from point A to point B, when we're talking about city services like our trash program, which I think is really awesome, right? And not every city offers that. Or, you're talking about our parks and green space. Those things are really important. And I think the other thing that's really important too is convenience. So where I live, can I walk, to a grocery store? Is my son's daycare close? Am I spending less on gas? Maybe I want to take public transportation. All of those things we need to make sure are implemented, and I believe that is what is attractive. So.
I heard that question a little bit different, so I might be off base here, but on the brain drain part of it, we're working on a project right now. It's one of those projects I wish to talk about, but Highway 34, Highway 75, LB 840 was instrumental in letting us put that project together. We had saved up $4 million over the last 5 years, and a project came to us, NC3, the REACH project. It goes by a couple different names. It's pretty top secret. They don't tell me everything about it. But What that allowed us to do was spend that $4 million to obtain the land for this company that's going to lease the land back from us, so that money will be replenished over 15 years or whatever that lease is. It also let us put $200 million from the state, or $20 million, I'm sorry, from the state with that. So $24 million into this project that's about a $200 million project that's going in south of the base. So another thing LB 840 does, and that's going to be on your ballot again this fall, it expands it across the city instead of just that one area down there, but it's awesome. You can use some of that money to train employees, to keep them here, to educate them. You can use that money for a lot of different things. So what the NC3 project is doing is they're working out a program with UNL and with UNO, the Nebraska schools, and they're going to feed kids into those high-paying IT jobs that come with the NC3 project. So we're already working on ways to keep those kids here. We don't want them leaving, and obviously, you know, the better our recreation is and our quality of life, that helps. But you have to have a reason why they want to work here, and they have to make the money to not leave, and to somebody else that offers it. So great question, and it's in the process.
Did you want to make a reply?
No, I'm fine. We can move on with questions.
Okay. Mayor Hike, second half of the question. It is clear to me when I teach in the classroom that younger people are heavily invested in issues of fairness, equal rights, racial and ethnic diversity. How will your administrations respond to young people and their interests in these specific issues?
My administration, we've hired a lot of great department heads. We talked about the police chief. But we are working, we understand what millennials and what the younger generation wants, so you have to play into that. It's hard to hire people. Again, the police chief filled his department. No other department in the state of Nebraska, maybe one other, is full. So you have to be innovative, and you have to sympathize with them or understand what they're going through or what they want in their jobs. They're the ones that are going to take over this world. We're not going to stay here and run it. So as much as you want to, they're going to be the ones here. So the world's going to change, and we have to adapt on how they want to work. It's a big issue right now. Our workforce is struggling, and we're looking for new ways to engage people. And they're not dumb kids. It's a smart generation. They're just going to work different. So we do need to address that.
Did you want to reply?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm going to run out of questions, you guys. City Councilman Burns. This is a question submitted by an employer in the area. We've had 2 master plans for Fort Crook Road. What is the status of these plans, and what are the next steps to execute on the master plan? Either one, exclamation point.
I like the hyphen. So I know that the city did have HDR come in and redo the plan. But the most important part about that is what do we do about that, right? Are we just throwing grandiose plans at people? Are we making more empty promises of saying this is coming, that's coming? You know, and I think it's important that if we are going to redevelop any corridor, that we focus on it, we do it well, and we do it right so that people can be proud of the surrounding area that they live in. And I also think whatever we do, it needs to make sense for the surrounding area. And that applies to Old Town Bellevue, that applies to the Highway 34 corridor, and it also applies to the Fort Crook corridor. So.
Yeah, the Fort Crook Road Plan came out in 2008 originally. I think that was chamber driven at the time, but it did sit on the shelves for quite a few years. It was this administration that took it off and dusted it off. But one of the things in that plan, it said you need to get permission from the state of Nebraska for your access points. That was absolutely not true. It took a decade for the administrations prior to me until ours figured it out. We actually questioned the state and said, what does this mean? All that time, there was nothing holding us back. So we had full access to make those improvements, make those adjustments along Fort Crook Road. So that's, that's just do your research, do your homework, don't take somebody's word for it. Fort Crook Road, we dusted it off. HDR is rebuilding it, and the only thing that's changed, we didn't have a lot of big box or anything on the original plan, so it still stayed pretty well in tune with what we need today. The big difference is mass transit has changed in the last few years. So we're adding a mass transit piece to that. You got the Orbit busing in Omaha that's going up and down Dodge Street. They're starting their north-south corridors now. They're going to take it from Dodge to 24th and Q. Our plan is to pick it up at 24th and Q and take it down to the base. Mass transit loves it. Metro Transit loves it because our infrastructure is already there. They don't have to build anything. We already got 3 lanes of concrete, and they're just absolutely thrilled with it, and I think that's going to really drive Fort Crook Road and bring some national development attention to it.
Thank you. This is a question for both candidates. As the mayor or member of the city council, you have worked alongside your opponent. What can you say that's nice? Can you say one nice thing and share it about your opponent? Who would like to go first?
No, I'm going to start.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what. When Thomas first ran for council, I was behind him, got behind him, thought it was a change. Not sure that was the right change, but he does appreciate everybody. I'm going to tell you that. He'll tell you that every time. So he does appreciate everybody. He'll acknowledge me, even though our social media campaigns tend to go off the rails sometimes. And I don't know that sometimes either one of us have control of it. But overall, he's keeping it professional in the council chambers. And I appreciate that part of it. And I'll leave it at that.
I really appreciate saying that, Rusty. So, I know.
Your turn.
Yeah. I'll tell you the most important part of my life is my son. And when I look at Rusty, I see a man who's dedicated to his family. And I hope he can say the same about me. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Burns. The mayor's position requires engagement, including sitting on or participating in numerous community boards, attending special events such as ribbon cuttings, city events, and charity events. All these demands are in addition to overseeing the vision of the city, meeting with and staying in contact with your administration, recruiting new investment to the city, and responding to city emergencies. As a young man with a new family, how will you balance these competing needs and manage your time in order to properly represent the 3rd largest city in the state of Nebraska?
One is I know my family is behind me, and this has been a really big sacrifice, between my mom, Danielle, and my dad. So I know that having that support and being away is, first, I think the key component is making sure that your family has your back. The second thing is I do work full-time, and I've kind of molded this around, but ultimately I do have a job that does allow some flexibility as far as hours go. And I really haven't had that discussion, so don't tell them what I'm concocting, okay? And so, for example, if I'm needed during the day, a lot of times officers, we do a lot of home visits and we're in the community. Really looks like maybe doing some after hours so I can be somewhere during the day, or, working and doing home visits on weekends because officers are required non-traditional hours. The other portion of that is I have looked at possibly requesting to go part-time because I want to be the best I possibly can be for people. I want to be accessible, and I want to be at those events, and just making sure that I'm really involved. That's really important. So.
Did you want to?
Well, that sounds like a question I could have wrote. So, I'm available. I'm available all the time. You can ask. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. If you call me, I'm going to call you back. We're going to get you an answer. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, that's the answer. We can take it to your council. I am very accessible. I've got great help. I've got an assistant that takes care of my personal business stuff. I've got a great office manager, a great property management director. My business is totally taken care of, and they'll vouch for that because they don't see me. So the city, I spend a lot of time in the city, and I don't sleep. I know a lot of people say that, but I mean, I was up 42 hours the other day before I went to sleep, and that's not good for you. So I force myself to sleep when I shut my brain down. But I love this city. My dad loved this city, and I think that's where I got it from. I can't explain it. My wife will probably vouch to. Sometimes I think I put the city before her, but tremendous support. My kids are grown, so I don't have to worry about that. It was an issue. I had great support from her when I was a county commissioner. So that's a question you need to have with your employer. I'm going to tell you that one because this is a lot. There's a lot of work here, and it requires a lot of time if you want to do it right. So thank you.
Okay. Mayor Hike, your campaign slogan is an adaptation of General Eisenhower's "I like Ike." President Eisenhower, anybody know that? Somehow I thought that might be the case. President Eisenhower was a noted moderate who avoided partisan politics. The recently released report, Hidden Tribes of America, indicates that 26% of Americans are so disgusted with hyperpartisanship that they have completely dropped out of the process. They say all politics is local. In your view, what is the appropriate role of partisanship at the city level, and how might you encourage re-engaging those who have or are considering dropping out of the process?
Yeah, don't give up. And I stole that logo, by the way. I didn't come up with that. So I just I just think people need to be involved. I haven't been asked if I'd be interested in the state senate position. I've been asked where I want to go after this. I don't want to go anywhere else because once you get above city level, county level is okay, I guess, but once you get outside the county, everybody spends all their time fighting politics and partisanship. You can't get anything done. I've been able to get a lot of things done because I deal with everybody across the board, and I don't have to spend half my time arguing partisan politics. So there's a place for it, but Eisenhower would have been if you're a moderate back then, you're probably middle of the road right today. I mean, Kennedy would probably be a Republican today. I don't know. I don't even worry about it anymore because I don't want to go any higher, and I don't want to have that argument. Thank you.
I think a big part of that is having a conversation, and I think at the end of the day, I realize that we're not all that different. I think we want things to be run efficiently. I don't think that if we're gonna throw partisan politics, I don't think that there's a Republican way or a Democratic way or a nonpartisan way to maintain roads. And I think most of that is just being able to hear people where they're at, be respectful, and actually be able to have an open dialogue, even if it's a tough topic. So.
Nope, we're good.
You know, for a couple of politicians, you guys don't talk very much. We're going to run out of questions here. All right, Mayor Hike. Bellevue is a riverfront city. In your view, has enough been done to maximize the riverfront area to the benefit of the community?
I would disagree with that. If you've been around Bellevue, Bellevue has done plenty to try to maximize the river. The river beats you every time. The city's in big ways. We've lost a lot of money in the river, and that's why we turned Hayworth Park over to a private entity. So, we'll put it at somebody else's risk. He's doing a fabulous job, and I think that's just it's a place to put private money and let them work on it. We do have some talk about another marina. I'd love to see another marina down there. It's not going to be on the city's dime, though. FEMA will not. They actually won't cover us anymore if we put more money down there. So our last $1 million came out of the last flood for Hayworth Park. So I think we will support private investment, however we can do it, but somebody else is gonna be in charge of the finances on that project. However, American Heroes Park, we are putting an investment on that side because that side does not it's been flooded once out of the last 3 times that the other side flooded. We could make some improvements and lift some of the projects up a little bit just to make sure they're out of the floodplain. But we're putting a lot of effort into American Heroes Park, and that's already becoming a destination. And that's going to be a beautiful park. Fishing lake, level walking trails, amphitheater, kids park, lookout tower. It's going to be a great park. Thanks.
And you've both mentioned American Heroes Park. Just for clarity, what is the location of that park?
It's at the Missouri River and Mission Avenue and on the north side.
Did you want to reply?
Yeah, and I don't think that there's much difference between Mayor Hike and that. I just think anything that we do on the riverfront, I think we have to take a very measured approach. I know that they're like, okay, well, we built the levees up, right? However, they said that the last time, and so I'm always a little skittish. And I also think that, yes, there's a riverfront, American Heroes Park, you have Hayworth, but I almost really think that even if you come up to Old Town Bellevue, that really is almost considered the whole riverfront. You look at the city of Omaha, and what they classify as the riverfront as well. It extends far back from the Missouri. You can say with Jean Leahy, the Jean Leahy Mall and everything they just did there, the Missouri River is a ways away from it is what I'm trying to say. So I think if you're making improvements to Old Town Bellevue, you're also making improvements to our riverfront as well. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of coastal in the Bellevue jurisdiction, so a lot of coast water. So we're going to use it. We're just going to be smart about where we spend the money.
Okay. So, Councilman Burns. Currently, Bellevue has 5 city council wards and an at-large candidate. Today, there is discussions for a 6th ward. As a political scientist, I found that fascinating. Where would that area be? How would that person be selected? And is this a sign of positive growth for the city?
So that person would be decided by an election. And as far as removing the at-large position, I see both sides to it. I think that, for whatever reason, if you can't go to your council member, or maybe you're just not seeing eye to eye, there's a second person, or there's a second person who's also advocating and able to work with everybody, And then as far as boundary lines, I know like the Golden Hills area up to 36, but I could not actually define the specific boundary lines. But I know in that general area, that'd be Ward 6. So
that's pretty much done now. MAPA, Metro Area Planning Agency, does the maps for us, so we don't get charged with any trying to gerrymander the lines. So MAPA, a third party, does that for us. It's pretty much done. The new maps will be on I think the first meeting in November to be approved. They might be on the agenda today if you look out there. I know they're coming up. We knew where they were pretty much, but they did adjust them again just because we have to keep candidates in their district while we're still changing the lines. So you got to manipulate it a little bit. But it's important to have the 6 districts, I think, because the at-large, it's like having another mayor. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but especially when you get to a town of 65,000, those districts get to be too big if you only have, if you're adding 3,000 people to a district, so that's 3,000 more people a council member have to take care of. So it makes sense to add another council member and keep that down around 10,000 people so that they can represent. So that's kind of where that thought process came from. Council approved it. I think it's a good one, and you'll see those maps out here shortly. There's already a map out there that we thought we were going to use, but I think they just adjusted it again. So.
Okay. So this one goes to Mayor Hike. Excluding a political campaign, describe a personal political loss. Tell us about that loss as you define it and what you learned from the experience.
I'd say probably I hadn't even thought about a political loss. But what comes to mind first, and I'll just talk about it, when we were trying to keep the Omaha Royals in the metro area, I was on the county board. And we had 3 representatives that represented part of Bellevue. So Bellevue fought really hard to get that to go in at the Chandler Road, Kennedy, southwest corner. It should have been there. We worked really hard at getting it. We did all the promoting right. We put all the teams together right. The chamber of the city worked really hard on getting that to Bellevue. Bellevue's Northwest District County Commissioner voted against it and voted it to put it in Western Sarpy. That was all politics, and I still don't understand it today how somebody that represents that district would turn against their own district. But, that was a political loss, and it really makes me think about when I think I've got something in the bag, well, you don't really have it in the bag. I mean, I did not expect that. And so you have to be looking at all angles. Thanks.
Can you share a political loss?
I don't know if I really I don't know if there's anything that I really consider a political loss. I mean, I think, if I'm going to introduce something, or, maybe I'd want something to pass or not pass. However, I just think it's important that we have a healthy dialogue about whatever it is. And if someone comes to me and we can do something about it, I think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? And if we can't do something about it, hopefully, my job is to be a voice for people, and to really create an open dialogue and maybe some awareness. So I don't know if having conversations and getting people to, think about something, discuss something, I never consider that really a political loss. So, yeah.
Okay. So this next one is for City Councilman Burns, which I lost my place. Oh, okay. So looking over the horizon in the next 10 to 20 years, what do you foresee as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge facing the city of Bellevue?
I think that some of our challenges is really a lot of our infrastructure, and I know we talk about infrastructure, it's kind of boring, but we have a lot of old and outdated infrastructure. So I think briefly, I started bringing up Mission Avenue, right? But a lot of our underground infrastructure is shot, and it's speculated that sewage actually runs through dirt tunnels that really have deteriorated at this point. If it rains, Mission Avenue floods, right? So there's your storm sewer. And those are really expensive projects, and I think that's a huge issue throughout the city. I think also our walkability, you know, and I guess I am speaking about Old Town Bellevue too. I'm most familiar with it as far as walkability and getting from point A to point B. You know, improving our parks. I think these are a lot of the issues that we are facing. And I think sometimes we do lack on amenities, and that's not to say that we don't have some really great things. But again, it all goes back to improving the quality of life for those who live here and also those who visit. And I think, you know, those are some of the challenges that we need to start facing and doing something about. You know, over the horizon, you know, if I were to envision, I envision, you know, our city's 64,000 people. And I do envision people coming here, whether, you know, it's touristy or wanting to stay here, or, you know, maybe we have some local restaurants. Maybe someone is visiting our riverfront. But I think, like, we also need to start taking the steps necessary to get there as well. And it doesn't mean that it's a lost cause, but we just got to start making moves now rather than later. So.
Mayor Hike, what are the opportunities and challenges facing the city?
I do have a lot of humility, but it's not going to sound like it on this one. We're doing the things right now to take care of those things 20 years from now. We're looking at the bridge, replacing the bridge. That's a 15, 20-year project. We're looking at the South Sarpy sewer system coming into the south side of Bellevue and bringing water down there. That's huge infrastructure that'll take care of that part of town. As we do these projects, the Old Town project, we're doing a street resurfacing and fixing all the utilities that are underneath it. As long as you're thinking about those things today, you're not going to have to worry about them in 20 years. There are a lot of things that were not thought about 20, 30 years ago in Bellevue. Thomas is referring to the sewer under Mission Avenue. That is 70 years old. The clay tile is gone. It's running through dirt holes. So we know we have a problem. That should have been fixed. That should have been fixed 30 years ago. Our new public works director, one of the jobs he was assigned to do was to come up with a complete capital improvement plan checklist. $200 million is what Bellevue is behind. Items that have been kicked down the road. Items that we have to fix. So right now we're making a plan to take care of those items, and you just have to keep biting away at it, and that's exactly what we're doing, and we have a plan for that. Bellevue's future 20 years from now, you know, you can't see past tomorrow what this world's going to look like, but right now Bellevue's future 20 years down the road is incredible. We have people moving into Bellevue. We're filling little spots. We're filling vacant lots. The dentist office that's going in across from Cobalt off of Harvell, that lot sat there for 15 years. People are moving in there. We're filling all these lots. People are coming to Bellevue. Our retail is full in Bellevue. You go out west, it's a totally different story. People are coming to Bellevue, and we're making it better every day. Thank you.
Well, it's time for closing statements. Each candidate now has 2 minutes to make a closing statement. There will be no rebuttals. Since Councilman Burns got the first comment to start our debate tonight, he will go first.
So, you know, first I'd just really like to thank Mary Hawkins of Bellevue, president of Bellevue University, and Michelle Andal, the president of Bellevue Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this event. Dr. Galusha, thank you. It's been really fun. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you all for, now I feel weird saying it, but I do appreciate you all for being here. It's really encouraging to see that so many people here. And Rusty, I do appreciate you too for agreeing to the debate. Thank you. And look, we talked about a lot of issues, and I don't think that there's time enough to talk about everything, and also in depth probably the way we'd want to. And you know, this election's about so much more than that, but it's also about integrity, and it's also about culture change at City Hall, you know. And so I'm just, for those of you in the audience, and for those of you who will watch this when this plays back, you know, when you go in to vote, I'm just asking you to vote with your heart. You know, do what your heart tells you. Otherwise, I'm Bellevue City Councilman Thomas Burns. I'm your candidate for mayor, and I'm asking for your vote.
Again, thank you for the great turnout. Thank you for your input, so whether it's social media, email in the city, however it comes, we do take all that into consideration. I've done this job for 4 years. We've done some amazing things. I can tell you, when I was 27, and I'm not pounding on youth here, if you all think of when you were 27, I can tell you when my kid's almost 27, or one of them was 27, you don't have what it takes to get in the trenches, and you don't have the life experience. I could, no, this is my talk, so. I've been working on things for this city longer than my opponent has been alive. And some of you are going to say, well, you don't do a very good job. I can hear your moaning. I think I'm doing what the people want. And we're going to find out November 8th. But I love this city, and I put the city first. And my integrity has come up in this other campaign. And I can tell you, 40 years in the real estate business, I have never once been in front of the Nebraska Real Estate Commission, and they are on you all the time. I do have integrity. I will not do anything unless it is good for the city and without council's permission. So it comes down to the council. The council votes. All I can do is tee it up and give them the information, and they can carry that vision forward. But I do have a vision for this city, and I do have the ability to get in the trenches and talk to the governor, the general out at the base, wherever I need to be, the philanthropist up in Omaha. I've done it all, and I've won a lot of those battles. That is a big decision. I do own property in the city. I'm a taxpayer, and I know who I want for mayor. And I would back somebody if I thought they were going to be better for this job than I was. It's not about the title. It's about doing something for the city of Bellevue. And I appreciate you coming out, Thomas, and I appreciate you for having this debate, because I never thought you'd have one. So appreciate it. Thanks.
So this concludes tonight's mayoral debate. Thank you for listening with respect and courtesy. Be sure to get out and vote on November 8th.
We want to thank both of you for participating in the debate tonight. Don't forget, Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th, so make sure your voice is heard. The debate will be available for viewing within the next 48 hours on the Chamber website and other civic and city-related pages. We'll post the links as soon as they're available. Thank you again on behalf of Bellevue University and the Bellevue Chamber. Good night and drive safely.